On the last 12 or so days, doing these wrestling related videos on my YouTube channel, I have been making some waves, with the video about the Shock and Ric Flair allegations. That's 9,000 plus views. The video I did just last night about is there more stuff to come, worse than Janelle Grant, that stuff, that video. That video is now 6,000 plus views. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but toot toot. With this stuff, Rene Dupree on his YouTube channel yesterday, Cafe de Rene, him and his co-host James got into the stuff with the Ryback allegations, with Ryback saying that, there's a Caitlyn and Triple H story out there and also a John Cena and Alex Riley story out there. And my very first video last Tuesday, I got into that stuff. And I uploaded a shorts video with that about, and it's titled "There's a Caitlyn and Triple H story out there." With that, I believe that it's my shorts video that they came across and they responded to. James said about Ryback mouthing off on his Instagram. I don't know, maybe he did an IG video at the time. This was last year. But it was I came across it on Ryback's YouTube page. I had contacted Cafe de Rene. I emailed them the other day, and I said, well, hey, I've got a couple of videos. There's maybe some information you maybe you'd want to get into here. And I told them about the it was the email that I did on the video that I did on the Ric Flair allegations by Shane Douglas and Sabu. So that's maybe something that they'll get into later on. With this, hey, I'm just doing my own thing right now, building my channel. But I'd love one day to maybe chop it up with those guys. There's some good laughs, good banter, the good discussions on their channel. James does a good job. Rene, he comes off like a good dude. Paul London, same thing. Nice guy. Funny guy too. And yeah, they're doing a really good job. I'm going back to 2021 SummerSlam time when they were just starting up the show. So I like what they do. This video though, I'm gonna react to what they were talking about, and it's just a short 2-minute clip, and it's Rene Dupree getting into this stuff with Alex Riley and Cena, and then it's the stuff to do with Triple H. And there's specifically a story there about Triple H and Stephanie. There has been speculation online for a few years now. I think it was even just shortly, it was months ago. People are saying, have Stephanie and Triple H split up? Triple H has been seen out without his wedding ring, stuff like that. But I'm going to play the video. And so Rene Dupree, he was in the business. He knows people. So he knows stuff. He hears the stories and here's all the the gossip and the rumor and innuendo, as Conrad Thompson likes to say. So it could be untrue. It could just be BS, or maybe there is something to it. But I'll play the video and I'll react as it's going along. So here we go.
There's a Caitlyn and Triple H story out there. There's a John Cena and Alex Riley story out there. And if the board invests...
Well, I actually heard, like it's like a locker room talk, but a story about Alex Riley and Cena.
I've heard that seems rumor.
But there's more to it. Like, the story that I heard, if that were to get out, that would completely jeopardize Cena's Hollywood career.
Yep. Big time.
As far as...
What do they know?
Caitlyn and Triple H. Didn't Ben... When we had Ben on, he always talks about there was a time period where Stephanie and Hunter weren't wearing their wedding rings on television or whatever.
Yeah, you mentioned that the other night, actually, which I found interesting.
Yeah. And again, I always use this, believe nothing of what you hear and half of what you see in the wrestling business when it comes to, like, rumors and innuendo or whatever. But I also heard of Stephanie being involved at one of the wrestlers.
Really?
Yeah.
There's stories about the Macho Man, those rumors.
This wrestler getting divorced and actually Triple H helping his ex-wife pay for legal costs. Again, I'm not naming names or anything, and this is all just,
Really?
Gee whiz.
an innuendo. But I don't know, Ryback, man, he has it out. He's not shy to.
So that's a pretty strong, when I say accusations, allegation. I mean, it's a story that he said, he's heard Rene, and Rene Dupree was in the main roster from 2003, 2007 time. So he would have heard stories and still connected to people in the business. So he that could be very well what he's saying. Could be the truth, but it could also just be a total nonsense, made up story. We don't know for sure. I'll talk about the Triple H Stephanie stuff first. So, there's been some rumors online about Triple H and Stephanie that they might have split up. There's been rumors. It was around August, September last year that there were rumors that Triple H and Stephanie had split up. The guy Ben Hameen they're speaking about, I think Ben Hameen had talked about this in like 2018, 2019 time on when he was doing videos on Russo's channel, Vince Russo. And again, with Stephanie Triple H, I've never really heard much of those rumors. I don't remember hearing about those rumors last year, around September, October time. But I mean, there was a story I remember, and I think it was Rene Dupree brought this up on his podcast. There was some story about that from 2005 that allegedly something had happened between Triple H and Christy Hemme, and then that was the reason that Triple H got moved from Raw to SmackDown. I think he mentioned Batista in that story or something about him, that he might have done something, but then Batista, though, he, along with Christy Hemme, went from Raw to SmackDown. But then there was other stories about Batista, wasn't there? There's something that happened with Batista and Melina, I believe. So there was that, rumor about Triple H and Christy Hemme. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Vince McMahon, it feels like all the stuff with Janelle Grant is very well could be true, because I feel like the Mr. McMahon character really was him. That really is him, and everybody in interviews and the documentaries they do on Vince have all said that. And when Vince McMahon is inserting himself in these storylines, he had no problem doing these storylines, making out with the divas. He was very happy to do that, right? And Triple H never quite did stuff like that with divas, being married to Stephanie, but there was that kind of dodgy kind of segment that wouldn't fly today about, did he not like Triple H lift up Candice Michelle's skirt or something? This is Raw 2005. He could have said no to that, being a married man. But I get it, it's a heel, your character, that's how you justify it, right? But I've never really heard any of those stories about Triple H and Stephanie McMahon before. I mean, there's the whole thing, were they on TV with their wedding ring? I don't know. I haven't cared to look back and double check and look at their fingers to see. It's maybe one of those things. Maybe they had, lovers' tiff. They had a big argument, a big barmy, and then they took the ring off. I don't know. Maybe it was something like that. But the thing is, though, I mean, with this stuff, though, with Ryback getting into stuff about the whole thing about a Caitlyn story. And again, I'd never heard anything about that. None of us have heard anything about that until Ryback brought it up, and this is about 18 months ago. So I don't know what the hell that could be, but it does kind of sound like when he's initially at the start, he's speaking about non-disclosure, non-disparaging agreements, and then 30 seconds later he says there's a, Caitlyn Triple H story and an Alex Riley and John Cena story that the board should look into. So it's like you kind of, like do the math from there, unless he's, wildly exaggerating these stories. But with Stephanie McMahon, she had said something in an interview with Howard Stern, I believe. This was in 2002. And she was saying about, like this was the whole thing when, they started that storyline with Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, and then, the whole thing of him drugging her, and then they got married, and then the whole match at Armageddon, and then she turns on Vince and whatever, but then Vince sides with them at WrestleMania and turns on Rock and all that. It was a lot of swerves, like, and Vince Russo wasn't even around at the time. It was swerves galore, but Stephanie was saying though in relation to all this that when it was about Triple H and Chyna, she says that supposedly they weren't dating at that point. They had a house together and they're trying to get out of the house or whatever. We saw each other for a couple of months, and then when it became apparent to me that obviously she is living in your house and something's going on, we stopped talking for a long time. Is there some truth in that story? Maybe. But that might just be them trying to kind of, her way, I suppose you could say, controlling the narrative that, getting away from the whole thing of, well, you were seeing her, but going behind Chyna's back, he was seeing Steph, That's maybe what that is. There was all this stories about, they were together, or maybe was it Big Show or Undertaker saw them making out one time, or it was some place in Manhattan, they just happened to see them or something. But then the whole thing was, the understanding was that from what we hear, it's that, Chyna did not know about this. Like she was the last to know. Like everybody else knew before Chyna knew. And I don't know if that was just one of those things. Chyna was in denial, but then at the same time, let's be honest, let's just tell it like it is. Cheating is cheating. And people are going to get hurt. But, and the thing with Chyna was, Chyna never recovered. You know what I mean? Chyna, at the end of the day, let her go. I remember hearing the story at the time that she wanted to get paid more money, and that was the reason they let her go. But really, it was this stuff with Stephanie McMahon because of that they let her go. And they couldn't be in the company, Chyna and Stephanie, the two of them. And it was obvious who was going to stay and who was going to go, right? And she didn't recover, and they didn't give her the rights to her name. She had to go out and be Johnny Laurer, and she probably didn't even know who Johnny Laurer is at that point. Chyna was a huge star. I mean, even think back to like 98, 99 time, how big that she was. She really hit her peak around that point. I suppose even at 2000, because she had done Playboy at that point, but she never recovered from that, and it was quite sad because she was probably felt that not that does Triple H really love Stephanie? Did he really love her? Yeah, I suppose, but she probably felt that she had really royally had been fucked over from Triple H, and I suppose Stephanie too, and she never recovered. Let's be honest, she never recovered. Look what happened to her. And a lot of people have called for Chyna to go in the Hall of Fame alone. But then, Triple H does the whole thing about the high road kind of thing of, not wanting kids to see, his kids to Google and see Chyna's name and what she's done post-wrestling and stuff like that. But you can't be all high and mighty, game, because, you've fucked with a lot of people, professionally, personally. And, you see what's happening to, you see what's happening to Vince now. And there could be some similar type allegations, but maybe not quite as bad, that could come out about Triple H. You never know. If there's, legitimate credibility there to what Ryback's saying, that, if there really is, a Caitlyn and Triple H story that is out there. There's some other stuff, though, right now, because, the Vince McMahon allegations, and you've got, a lot of people like Randy Orton, John Cena, who just happened to do interviews around the same time talking about this stuff. And Cena was a bit more it was a bit more transparent that he was trying to defend McMahon, right, and have his back. But Kevin Owens, to his credit, he spoke on this. He got asked about this, and he said, quote, "Everything that has come out is awful, just terrible. There's really no words to describe how sad this makes me feel. If the people spoke out, went through what they went through, that's terrible. It's shameful and it can't ever happen again. That's what it comes down to." Well said. I think that's well said. And I think probably Cena should have You know, if Kevin Owens has said this beforehand, Cena should have taken a page out of his book, you know. Because I think it was, and Dutch Mantel said it on his podcast, it was quite a tone-deaf kind of response from Cena. I understand the whole sticking up for your friend thing, but at the end of the day, you know, there's people who have been, people got hurt, you know, people, you know, Janelle Grant went through a lot of stuff, isolated from, you know, family, you know, friends, huge weight loss. She wasn't eating. She went through a lot of stuff. Like, you know, she essentially said she was going through, you know, like, you know, post-traumatic stress disorder. That's the one thing you've got to remember. You know, other people were hurt, especially Janelle Grant. This. I want to touch on the stuff with, you know, Alex Riley and John Cena. So, you know, I've heard a couple of things, and, you know, somebody's saying to me something about, you know, Alex Riley's partner told him on Instagram about something about Riley catching Cena performing black magic rituals backstage, and then Cena, I guess at that point, had it in for Riley from that point on. I mean, I don't know how credible that is, and I'm not going to just take what some person comment or somebody commenting on my video is going to say. I'm not just going to fully believe that that's true. But it sounds like it's something pretty bad, and you know from what Rene Dupree is saying, that whatever it is could really, you know, if it was revealed, would jeopardize his Hollywood career. And James went up, he said, yeah, big time, the co-host. And James, you know, he speaks to these guys, and, you know, he speaks to a lot of these wrestlers, you know what I mean? And he'll hear stuff, you know. So he, you know, he's not just going off of maybe what a couple of, you know, fanboys say on Twitter. Like, these guys speak to a lot of people who are in the business, you know, and they get fairly big names on their podcast. They've had Kurt Angle on, so they have people in the inside of the business who really know the deal. And when you hear, you know, what Renee had to say on it, and then you've got Alex Riley saying, he said in an interview, I'm not in the habit of destroying anyone's career, and continued. So whatever it is, it could be pretty damn bad. But I just wonder how bad, what could be the severity of this exactly. You know, you had Ryback one time who would say, well, if people find out, they're going to lose their shit. But then he did say, the same time, say that these things will be, or one would be effing hilarious, you know, to do with what you would find out about Cena. So I don't know, it could be still shocking, but maybe not super disturbing. But it would be curious to see, you know, will we ever hear about this stuff with Cena and Alex Riley? You know, Riley has said a few times in interviews, you know, one day I'll speak on it, you know. I think he even said that like 11, 12 years ago, you know. And hey, you know, if he wants to speak about it at his own time, he went through a terrible thing. That's fine. You know, I'm an empathetic human being. The one thing for me was, I think what Riley, you know, Ryback said in his tweet is that Alex Riley deserves justice. You know, like, you know, Ryback, you know, he was able to get the rights to his own name. That was a tough legal battle he went through WWE, and he won. And, you know, give the guy credit. People can say that he's better, he's this, he's that, and criticize him and make fun of him, but you know what, he really does tell it like it is about WWE, and says it quite eloquently about how toxic that place can be and the shit way that they've treated people over the years. I don't know if things are fully going to change and improve now with the new regime, with TKO, Ari Emanuel, Rock on the board, Nick Khan, all the others, but you'd like to think that things could gradually improve. And it probably has. I mean, the culture, I think, amongst the wrestlers has probably improved. It's not all the bullshit bullying and the hazing that used to go on how people could drive others out of the business and just, you know, you probably have a good idea who I'm talking about in this case, right? And maybe that's a video for another day. I could get into that stuff. But I imagine, though, the culture amongst the talent is improved somewhat, but you probably still get the bullshit backstage office politics, and a lot of that goes down. But that's just, it is what it is, right? You know, with this stuff with Cena, I mean, the whole thing about the guy saying, you know, Riley caught him doing black magic rituals or whatever. Now that might sound a bit ridiculous, right? But if you go here to Google, I mean, Cena does this whole thing with his hand sign. He used to do the whole, like word life thing or whatever it was. Like I can't exactly even remember how it was, how to do it. I mean, I was a big Cena mark back in the day, but that early Cena when he was the heel doing the rapping gimmick. But look at all there's so many photos you can find online of Cena doing this, and this is supposed to be what they say the 666 hand sign, the mark, of the devil. Now some people try and say it's just him throwing up the three fingers as hustle, loyalty, respect, but I don't buy that. I don't fully buy that. John Cena is in that world, and you see many people in big positions of power in politics have done similar hand signs like that. You get many people in acting, in the Hollywood game, in the music industry who do this. So I don't just believe this is just Cena doing this because, to show the three fingers, hustle, loyalty, respect. I don't think so. And it's one of those things, probably the Cena fans would overlook it. But he does it all the bloody time. And that's what they say, is that's their way of letting the people know who really know that they're in the club. And, Cena, there's so many pictures of Cena doing this. And again, you just have to look at Cena's entrance and he's always doing this. And there's plenty of people who do this same thing. You know what I mean? LeBron James, there's many people that do this. And, Cena's in that world. Cena's in that world, and I think that isn't like some stupid thing that Cena's doing where he's he's having his OnlyFans account for some U character he's playing in a U movie or some shit. Just this real kind of like low kind of just low, superficial, just trashy shit. You know what I mean? But that's the world. That's the game he's in, and he's gonna play it. But Cena's not the star that Rock is in the film world. You know what I mean? Cena's he's been relatively successful in doing movies, and I'm sure he gets good paydays, but he's nowhere near the level of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I mean, are you kidding me? I always think back to that AJ Styles line he had in the promo. He said, "You'll go home and you'll look in the mirror and you'll know you're not as good as acting as The Rock, and then you'll know you're not as good of a wrestler as AJ Styles." Remember that from SmackDown? I like that line, but yeah, there's just something about all this stuff and this symbolism, and I'm not down with it. And yeah, I mean, could there be some truth to that whole thing about these rituals? It could be. I mean, you hear stories about people saying that Jay-Z and Beyonce performed witchcraft and stuff like that, and they were pressuring some people that were around them to do it in the music recording studio or something. I don't know, but there could be some truth to this. As crazy as it might sound, there could be. But I don't know. It's been crazy overall in general, all this stuff in the in the wrestling world, and with all this crazy allegations of Cena and Janelle Grant. But a lot of people think maybe that there could be some bombshells that will come out very soon, maybe around the week of WrestleMania. So we might hear stuff on this, of what supposedly happened there with Triple H and Caitlyn, and might eventually one day find out what happens with John Cena and Alex Riley. But I'm here to seek the truth. That's me. I want to help get the truth out there. And again, like what Ryback says, Alex Riley does deserve justice. He was a good guy, and let's be honest, Cena fucked him over, But that's my thoughts for now, guys. That's my video. But feel free to hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are, what your take is, and all this, and what do you think maybe happened there with John Cena and Alex Riley and Triple H and Caitlyn. But that's me for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.